Direct News TV March 19, 2024. Did Russia, Iran provoke Niger walkout from U.S. military pact? Niger has suspended a military agreement with the United States that gave American troops a key base and launchpad in Africa's Sahel region. The move, announced on Sunday, follows a row about the African nation's ties to Russia and Iran, which erupted when U.S. officials visited Niger last week to express their concerns. What happened and what does it mean now? What was the military pact between the U.S. and Niger? The Status of Forces Agreement, signed in 2012, allowed about 1,000 U.S. military personnel and civilian defense staff to operate from Niger, which plays a central role in the U.S. military's operations in the Sahel. The U.S. military operates Air Base 101 in Niger's capital, Niamey. Additionally, it operates a major airbase, Air Base 201, near Agadez, a city 920 kilometers, 572 miles, southwest of Niamey, using it for manned and unmanned surveillance flights and other operations in the Sahel. Air Base 201 was built from 2016 to 2019 at a cost of more than $100 million. The base has been used since 2018 to launch drone operations against armed groups linked to ISIL, ISIS, and Al-Qaeda in the Sahel. Niger is the center of U.S. operations in West and North Africa, notably at its Air Base 201, Al Jazeera's correspondent Shihab Rattansi said from Washington, D.C. Having a base in the Sahel is important for Washington's operations against armed groups in the region, but it's really there also for great power projection against countries like Russia and China, Rattansi said. Why has Niger suspended the pact? Senior U.S. officials, led by Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs Molly Fee and the head of U.S. Africa Command, General Michael Langley, visited the West African country last week. In their meetings, U.S. officials expressed concern over Niger's potential relationships with Russia and Iran. Sabrina Singh, a spokesperson at the U.S. Department of Defense, said at a news briefing on Monday. While announcing the suspension of the pact, Niger military spokesperson Colonel Amadou Abdramani referenced pressure from the U.S. on which countries the nation could partner with. Niger regrets the intention of the American delegation to deny the sovereign Nigerian people the right to choose their partners and types of partnerships capable of truly helping them fight against terrorism, Abdramani said. He denounced the condescending attitude of the U.S. diplomats and said Washington had not followed diplomatic protocol because Niger was not informed about the composition of the delegation, the date of its arrival or its agenda. Niger's military leader, General Abdurrahman Chani, refused to meet the delegation. Local media reported that Fee met the Prime Minister in Niamey. The crux of it: Niger's decision is Niger's choice of military partners, specifically, the choice of Russia. The U.S. clearly seems to be frustrated that Niger is moving closer and closer in terms of military partnerships with the Russians, Alexis Akwajiaram, managing director of the news platform Semaphore Africa, told Al Jazeera. Akwajiaram added that the condescending attitude of the U.S. towards Niger may have been a contributing factor in Niger's decision. From Niger's perspective, the U.S. presence in the country has failed to crush the activities of armed groups there. At the moment, the Sahel region, in spite of these partnerships, remains the center spot for terrorism in the world, said Kabir Adamu, a security and intelligence specialist focused on West Africa and the Sahel region and based in Abuja, Nigeria. Where do Russia and Iran come in? Niger has been under military rule since July, when an elite guard force led by Chani detained democratically elected President Mohamed Bazoum and declared Chani ruler. Yevgeny Prigozhin, the late founder of the Russian state-funded Wagner military group, hailed the coup as a long-overdue liberation from Western colonizers. After the coup, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, called for the immediate reinstatement of Bazoum, threatening the military government with force. Russia warned ECOWAS against taking such action. Niger then ejected French and other European forces, following the example of neighboring Mali and Burkina Faso, which have both also had military coups in recent years. France closed its embassy in Niger. The US also suspended some aid after the coup but offered to restore ties under some conditions in December. ECOWAS also lifted most sanctions in February. After the coup, the US military consolidated its forces in Niger, moving some of its soldiers from Air Base 101 in the capital to Air Base 201. Meanwhile, like Mali and Burkina Faso, Niger has turned to Russia for support. A Russian delegation visited Niamey in December. In January, Nigerian Prime Minister Ali Mohammed Laminzean visited Moscow to discuss military and economic ties. And it is not just Russia that Niger is strengthening relations with. In late January, Zein also visited Iran, where he met President Ebrahim Raisi. The Wall Street Journal reported on Sunday that the U.S. delegation that visited Niamey last week accused the Nigerian government of also working on a deal to supply uranium to Iran. Niger is the world's seventh largest uranium producer. Could the U.S. negotiate to keep its troops in Niger? When asked whether there is potential for U.S. forces to remain in Niger, Singh said on Monday, "We remain in contact with the CNSP, the National Council for the Safeguard of the Homeland, Niger's ruling military body. We're continuing to conduct those conversations at a diplomatic level, so I don't have a time frame of any withdrawal of forces." Akwajiaram said the suspension could leave Niger vulnerable, much like Mali and Burkina Faso, adding that he does not think the West African countries could match U.S. military force in numbers or capability. When you push out those Western troops, you could see an attempt to try and make up the numbers by forming a security pact between themselves and turning to Russia, but I don't think that is going to make up the shortfall. He predicted that, in time, the security situation in Niger will deteriorate. How does this affect the U.S.? The Niger base is one of the biggest drone facilities the U.S. has in Africa. Singh confirmed in the Monday briefing that the U.S. has not been using its troops and drones at the base for counter-terrorism operations since the July coup. If the U.S. has to withdraw its forces entirely, it could lose access to the facility, built entirely by the U.S., reducing the West's military footprint further in a part of the world where Russia's influence is growing steadily. In February, France withdrew its troops from Burkina Faso, which has been under military rule since a 2022 coup. In Mali, Russian soldiers have been training the military government's officers. Wagner, the Russian paramilitary group, has a presence there. And relations between Mali and the U.S. are strained. In July, the U.S. sanctioned officials in Mali's military for ties with Wagner fighters. The latest unfortunate development in Niger could prove particularly embarrassing for U.S. President Joe Biden in an election year, Adamu said. "My name is Kingsley. Please like, share, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be the first to be notified whenever we post. You won't regret it."